The stars were cold and distant, scattered like shattered gemstones across the night sky. Karen perched on the edge of a jagged cliff, her twin hearts pounding. The elders had warned of omens like this, fire streaking across the heavens, unnatural visitors from the void. Tonight, the warning became real. The flaming wreckage tore through the upper atmosphere, screaming as it plummeted toward the wastelands beyond the sacred boundary. A forbidden land, abandoned by their ancestors. A place no Zalari was meant to tread. Karen's grip tightened around the shaft of her spear. Her duty was clear: report the anomaly to the elders. Let the council decide its fate. But her feet didn't turn back toward the city. Instead, she leapt from the cliff's edge, sprinting down the rocky slopes. She had to see. The air was thick with the stench of burnt metal and scorched earth. Karen crouched behind an outcropping, scanning the wreckage. The ship, if it could still be called that, was split apart, jagged metal guts spilling into the sand. And something moved. A figure, struggling weakly. Her breath caught. Human. Even injured, even near death, the sight of it sent a jolt of fear through her chest. The elders' words echoed in her mind. Humans were destruction incarnate. Their wars, their endless hunger for conquest, had nearly wiped themselves out. They could not be trusted. Yet this one was broken. Weak. The human tried to crawl forward but collapsed. His breathing was ragged, blood seeping from a gash along his forehead. His suit was torn, exposing pale, fragile-looking flesh. He would die here. Karen should let him. She gritted her teeth, warring with herself. The elders had decreed all human contact forbidden, punishable by exile or worse. The law was absolute. And yet... She stepped forward. The human stirred, glassy eyes struggling to focus. His lips parted, forming words she did not understand. A plea? A warning? Karen exhaled sharply. Curse the laws. Curse the elders. She knelt beside him, grasped him under the arms, and hauled him to his feet. The human groaned in pain, but she ignored it. She had made her choice. With the weight of her decision, of him, on her shoulders, she disappeared into the shadows of the wasteland. The cave was cold, the air damp with the scent of stone and lichen. Karen crouched beside the human, watching him stir. His breathing was uneven, but steadier than before. He was alive. She had ensured that. His eyelids fluttered open, unfocused at first. Then his gaze snapped to hers. He tensed, instinctively pushing back against the rock wall. Fear flickered in his eyes. Good. He understood the danger. Karen kept her spear within reach, but made no move toward it. The human's reaction puzzled her. Where was the arrogance? The aggression the elders had sworn all humans carried? He was wary, yes, but there was no violence in his expression, only confusion. He muttered something in his own tongue. The sounds were guttural, clipped, entirely foreign. She said nothing. He tried again, this time gesturing to his wound. His fingers trembled. Weak, fragile. Karen frowned. Everything she had been taught told her he should not be like this. Humans were monsters, destroyers, a plague that the elders had long since deemed unworthy of contact. But this one bled like any other being. Her grip on her spear tightened before she exhaled slowly. She reached into her satchel, pulling out a strip of soaked cloth. The human flinched when she pressed it to his wound, but didn't resist. That, too, was strange. His expression shifted, and he said something again, softer this time. A question, maybe? His voice lacked hostility. Karen remained silent. The treatment took time, but soon his breathing evened out. He leaned back against the wall, watching her. Another whisper of words. She didn't respond. He pointed at himself. Adam. She stiffened. Again, he gestured to his chest. Adam. Then, hesitantly, he pointed at her. She narrowed her eyes. He was asking for her name. Ridiculous. And yet... Karen. His face brightened slightly. He repeated it, clumsily shaping the sounds. It was wrong, but recognizable. Why did she feel uneasy? She turned away, shoving her supplies back into her satchel. The human, Adam, was an anomaly. He should not be here. He should not be alive. And yet she had saved him. The elders would never forgive this. But as she glanced back at him, at the way he watched her with something other than fear, something almost grateful, she wondered. Had the elders been lying? The summons came at dawn. Karen barely had time to react before the guards tore her from the cave, her hands bound behind her back. They had found her. Adam shouted, struggling to rise, but the blunt end of a spear struck him down. Karen fought, twisting against her captors, but it was useless. The elders had spoken. The tribunal was swift. The council stood in their towering robes, their expressions carved from stone. The chamber was filled with Solari, their eyes burning with curiosity, judgment, and fear. She was forced to her knees. The elder in the center, the one who had ruled since before she was born, studied her with disappointment. "You have broken the most sacred law." Karen did not answer. "You brought the human into our lands. Nursed it. Defiled yourself with its presence." The elder's voice was calm, heavy with finality. "Do you understand the danger you have invited upon us all?" Adam was dragged forward, barely able to stand. Blood stained his temple where they had struck him. He should have stayed quiet. Should have let them take her. But of course he hadn't. The elder turned to the crowd. "What do we know of humans?" A murmur rippled through them. The response was automatic. "Warriors. Destroyers. Chaos incarnate." Adam lifted his head, eyes sharp despite the pain. "That's not true." A hush fell. Karen felt the tension coil through the air. He had spoken. Not growled, not roared, not the way the elders had always described humans. He had spoken words with meaning, with defiance. And the Zalari had heard it. The elder's jaw clenched. "You will not infect us with your lies." Adam's laugh was bitter. "Is that what you're afraid of? The truth?" The murmurs grew louder. Uncertainty. Karen felt something shift. A crack in the foundation. She took a breath. "He is not what you fear." Her voice carried, steady and strong. "You fear what he represents." The elder's gaze snapped back to her. "And what is that?" She didn't hesitate. "Choice." Silence. The elder's expression darkened. "You have doomed yourself." He raised a hand, fingers curling into a fist. The judgment was clear. Exile. Execution. She braced for it. But then Adam moved. Not to run. Not to fight. He stepped forward, shaking, bloodied, but unbowed. "If she's doomed," he said, voice steady, "then so am I." The gasps were audible. Humans were supposed to be selfish, creatures of destruction. Yet this one refused to abandon her. Karen met his gaze, something fierce and unspoken passing between them. The elder's control was slipping. The crowd was watching. Doubting. For the first time in her life, Karen saw fear in his eyes. Because the law had been broken. And the people had seen the truth. The guards hesitated. The moment stretched, fragile as glass. The elders had commanded order, yet doubt now lingered in the air, thick and suffocating. The people had seen too much. Heard too much. Karen felt the shift. The moment where fear cracked, where certainty bled into something unstable. Then the elder's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Kill the human!" Adam barely had time to react before a guard lunged, spear aimed for his chest. Karen moved before she thought. Her foot slammed into the attacker's wrist, knocking the spear aside. A second guard swung, but she ducked, driving her elbow into his ribs. The third never got the chance. Adam tackled him, wrenching the weapon from his grasp. Shouts erupted from the crowd. Chaos. Karen grabbed Adam's arm. "Run!" They moved as one, weaving through the stunned masses. The guards struggled to follow, but hesitation slowed them. Karen caught glimpses of faces, some horrified, others uncertain. A few, just a few, watched with something else in their eyes. Hope. The city walls loomed ahead, the gates closing fast. Too fast. Adam gritted his teeth. Keep going. Karen didn't question it. She sprinted forward, pushing every ounce of strength into her stride. Adam turned, gripping the stolen spear. The guards hesitated, expecting brute force. Instead, he twisted, using momentum, knocking one off balance and slamming another into the dust. He wasn't fighting to kill. Just to delay. The gates neared. Not enough time. Karen's mind raced. Then she saw it, an old supply cart, half filled with cargo. She grabbed Adam's wrist, dragging him toward it. Understanding flickered in his gaze. Without hesitation, he climbed in beside her. Then they were moving, momentum carrying them forward, just enough. The cart crashed against the narrowing gap, splintering on impact. They dove through the wreckage, rolling into the dust beyond. The gates slammed shut behind them. Karen pushed herself up, breath ragged. Adam groaned, brushing debris from his arms. Behind the gates, the guards stood frozen. The elders' voices rang out, but the crowd did not move. No pursuit. Not yet. Karen looked to the horizon, the wastelands stretching ahead. Exile. Freedom. Maybe the same thing. She turned to Adam. He grinned, exhausted but unbroken. You're insane, she muttered. He laughed. So are you. She glanced back one last time. A figure stood atop the walls, a young warrior, watching. Then they were gone, running toward the unknown.